Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Well, would you look at that? Somehow we made it to the end of Space Force. We watched all 10 episodes back to back to back. We just decided to go straight up the ass of the competition and just say, fuck it. I wanted to just finish this entire series to see if the first episode was indicative of the entire series and if it was worthy of actually finishing the series. Right off the bat, I'll just save y'all the time. This is a very light-hearted comedy series, Space Forces, that is trying to intertwine a little bit of satire with it, discussing some government intertwinings with quirky overseers, overseeing even quirkier people within it. It's basically a shit show. It's basically a circus. It's basically an amalgamation of a couple things, and it's kind of hard to describe. But overall, I will say that I was somehow satisfied at the end of this series. I don't want to say that like reluctantly or anything like that, but this series seriously went on its ups and downs for me. It almost felt like scene by scene. I wasn't really sure if I was going to like it or not. But I will say the first few episodes were the most difficult for me to get through personally, just because of the importance of why should I give a shit about this show. Besides that's from the Office guys. But once the show kind of gets a rhythm in it and you kind of get an understanding of who the main characters are, and it's not just these setups for jokes every time. I will say that it kind of starts to go a little bit deeper than surface level, I don't know, racial humor jokes or sexual innuendo jokes or something like that. Although, there are times when Steve Carell is straight up, talking to a guy's crotch at one point. And so it's just like, you got to take kind of the seriousness with a grain of salt, which comes with the satire. But there are elements that kind of remind me a little bit of like Doctor Strangelove, I guess, with the funny names. I kind of forgot that Grabiston, grab ass ton. I guess grab an ass ton of ass. I don't know, but the crazy names they have in Doctor Strangelove. Um, just like that. They even kind of have like a war room very similar to it. Um, I'm gonna go through the episodes 2 through 10 real quick. I don't have tons of notes on this, so this will probably be a relatively short podcast. So anybody that is curious about the kind of slightly more detailed review, continue on listening. And thank you for listening. I think it was Synth on the comments on the first Space Force. Yes, Synth. She's I believe it's a she, or they said, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Synth said they loved it, and I told them I'd give them a quick shout out. But anyways, thank you for watching the original episode 1 review. So let's continue to talk about this in a little bit more detail. I was kind of giving everybody a little bit of time to kind of process and pause it if they need to. So episode 2 is where we're going to start because we already discussed episode 1. Episode 2 is dealing with the monkey. I think it was Marcus, I believe the monkey is. Wow, this is not a great episode for episode 2. Now, it's kind of, this is going to be a rocky start for everyone's like, I thought he said he liked the show. I thought he said he liked the show. Everyone was gathering around. He wanted to he said that he was going to have a good review. Well, I do have an overall good review for this series. I will say these first 3 episodes were so rocky coming out the gate. It feels tonally imbalanced. I was actually looking at behind the scenes. This wasn't even a sealed deal as a show until September of 2019, I believe. Let me see. September 26th. Everyone, John Malkovich, Ben Schwartz, Diana Silvers, Tawny Newsome, all these individuals, Jimmy O Yang, all these individuals had just been cast. So my thing is, this feels kind of like a rushed show. So maybe if they had had a year to, flesh out all of the writing, but these are really fast episodes. And what it feels like is these first couple episodes, especially with this Marcus monkey thing that, the monkey that ends up never coming back through what feels like it doesn't come back at the end of the series. It definitely feels like this first half and last half of the series feel like from two different minds almost, and or it might just be the beginning and the end. I don't know, but I didn't feel like the majority of the beginning, this monkey episode of the second episode, and one, they they feel like filler episodes. Two, the writing's not good. Three, they're almost skippable in my opinion, which sucks for saying that the season is actually not that bad, but you just got to get over this first hour and a half of show that you got to watch. So it's like, oh my gosh. So episode 3, Stuck on the Moon. That's pretty funny. It's I believe that's the episode that Naird goes on, that one episode when he's doing the with the scientists and stuff like that. You kind of learned a little bit more about him. Also, the side characters. I think we start to have a little bit more with the side characters, such as Ben Schwartz as Fuck Tony. He was one of the more contemporary humor, quote unquote, millennial joke geared type comedians on there. Hilarious. I think that the comedy starts to work back a little bit into the script. Kind of almost like improv in a way. So that kind of lends to the feeling that this was, I don't want to say an expedited adventure, but it does feel like the script was not 100% thought out before this was executed. I mean, what was Space Force? It was geared. It was only initiated like last year, so to my knowledge, I believe. Yeah, and Fuck Tony. I realized this. Ben Schwartz can't keep his head straight. He is always crooking his head sideways, moving it around. This guy, I swear he looks like Sonic. That's why he was cast as him. We also find out Naird is lonely. And so episodes 4 through 10, we're going to condense these a little bit. They're not, exceptionally bad, with the exception of the teenage daughter. Now, what is her name again? I'm going to have to hack the network for this. And because you have no idea what just happened, I definitely did not just pause the podcast. So, yes, I have hacked the network. And by the network, I mean I went on IMDb and typed in Space Force, and I found out Diana Silvers. She was in Booksmart, so I know she can act. But my lord, they really screwed over this character, and they just made this one of the most unlikable teenage POSs I've ever seen. And this has nothing to do with, gender roles or religion or color or any of that, like sexuality or any of it. It is just a god awful written role. If anybody had written this, you would think that there was something wrong with the character. She's written like a 12-year-old in a 18-year-old or 21-year-old's body. It is really bad. Maybe take a shot for every time she rolls her eyes. It is insane. And I'm sorry saying this because Diana Silvers in Booksmart is, she's pretty good. She kind of plays this cool, hip, lesbian chick at the end. And she's, quote unquote cool, I guess. But anyways, I was just very surprised that they wrote this character this way. And I guess I wanted a little bit more. It was predictable to a bad point. She just does not act like a real person. Just way too old to be acting like that. So 4 through 10, this is really the fleshing out of the Bryn Schwartz characters, supporting characters like Brad, Chan, Ali become more um, interesting as the show progresses. Honestly, they probably could have cut 3 episodes and probably saved some of the budget. Say you didn't need the monkey episode at all. My lord, it wasn't even funny in my opinion. Did anyone laugh at that? Maybe people did. Maybe they did. I had maybe like a couple chuckles at some point, but I was I wasn't like upset, but I was like, this feels like a waste of time and money. Like, my lord, this, just CGI on this monkey. In the screen that they had up. Oh my gosh, I had so much to say. Um, Chan and Ali became predictably cute. Kind of an expedited love story. Strange love style comedy during the governmental scenes with the higher ups. I kind of liked that, but there's just not enough of those characters. Chan and John Malkovich's characters are the straight characters to the insanely dumb astronauts towards the end. The astronauts that are chosen to go on this, to be, have boots on the moon again, is just insanely inept. It was like they chose the worst of the worst of the worst, and they had like one competent person in there, Tawny Newsome, who's Captain Angela Ali, and I like her character. She plays the straight smart woman, that has a great relationship with Chan, and I like their the cross interrelationship kind of thing they got going on, and it was kind of funny how they brought that to the attention. Um, Everybody, good to be black on the moon. Did they really have to do Captain Angela Ali like that? Could they really not just give her a good? Could they not really just give her a good line? They have so much leading up to it, and my expectations were tempered because of the majority of the series. I had such high expectations up until maybe the third episode. I was like, this has really worn me down, and so it only kind of barely, uh, you know, caught its way up to really of giving a shit about these characters. Steve Carell is actually not my favorite character, but he's good to bounce all these characters off of. I love the jokes that Ben Schwartz, John Malkovich, Jimmy O Yang was great. Don Lake, holy shit, this guy's funny. He's plays Brad Gregory. I forgot to say how funny he was in the first episode. Um, and it feels like he does a lot with a little. He plays just kind of like dim-witted a little bit, and a lot of them do play dim-witted, but almost in a weird way. Dr. Chan is almost like the Dwight of the Space Force, but yeah, the massive screen in the main room that they're in does not look real at all, in my opinion. It's a green screen from hell. Could you not put a filter over it? Something. I feel like the '90s are gonna age better than this. Did anyone think that the screen looked just too HD and almost too much like a video game? That could just be me. I could just be criticizing, and I could just be grumpy. I just wanted to preface that. So, Steve Carell is more relatable as the series grows. You find out why he's dancing to Jamaica. He's singing all these times when he's feeling, kind of like anxiety, depressed, kind of that time lonely, that something like that. It's a little bit more heartfelt scenes, with his new girlfriend. I want to bring her name up because I actually really like that. Her name's Kelly King, I believe, played by Jessica Sinclair. I have not seen this actress in anything to my knowledge, but she was funny. She was really fucking funny. She's in Bridesmaids, Life as We Know It, Wanderlust. Was she the main chicken? She's Out of My League. I don't believe so, but she is pretty damn funny, and she has this thing. Her sense of comedy is kind of just like rambling on alongside Steve Carell, and when you get two people that are just kind of like rambling on together, you're either gonna like that type of comedy or you're not. And I'm the kind of guy that is like, oh, this is kind of funny. It's more or less cute when it's two people that are kind of opposites and awkward with each other. It reminds me of that Judd Apatow a little bit, of that 40-Year-Old Virgin a little bit. type humor. That I always like that type of stuff, but it's not always like that. So, it comes and goes. Duncan, this Space Force bodyguard guy from Alabama. I think he may be an early Chris Pratt uh, type stand-in. If everyone remembers Parks and Rec, how goofy Chris Pratt was and sort of dim-witted. Duncan's kind of got that same vibe, in my opinion. Duncan may be this new love interest for Diana Silver's character Aaron. But he is just just like so dumb. And it almost makes me feel bad because they give him this really thick Southern drawl, so it almost just like, did you really have to make him sound like that? It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, or make him sound like that and act like that. Like, it doesn't matter that he sounds like that. It's like, oh my gosh. Also, when they're on the moon, some of the worst moonwalking I've ever seen. Did anyone think this was some of the worst moonwalking you ever seen? You see, like, I think it was Julio or something like that. They have one of the they have the cliche diversity hire everybody. They got the redheaded guy, they got the Asian guy, they got the Latin guy, they got the black female lead. Is Ben Schwartz Jewish? Because that would probably explain some things. It, I'm just saying they went for everything. Julio, yes, Julio Diaz, of course, with the most generic name. No offense to the Julio Diaz's out there, but or Jose, what is it? I don't know what his name is anymore. Um, and we had the uh, Poonam Patel as Ragnata, I believe. Yeah, we had pretty much someone. This was supposed to be just, the worldwide, um, you know, worldwide unite kind of thing. I don't know, and it's weird because they use China as like the quote unquote enemy for the longest time. Um, but I mean, really, they're just doing the same thing they're doing, except they're first. They're on the moon first. You know, they were there before Space Force was. But anyways, they do have some interesting. It's like small little obstacles they have to go through each episode. Like they almost can be disposed and forgotten each episode. The reason I think this season works is because you can just continuously play each episode. Don't have to worry about too much. You can come back, go forth, da da da. It doesn't really matter. Um, the 30-minute time slots are good. I thought it was going to be 45 every time because I think the first and last episodes are 40. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a little steep to watch that on every episode. But I maybe could have been trimmed down a little bit. I do think that the strong suits of this are obviously the looks, and you can clearly see that this has a lot of money in it. Um, the writing, I mean, they were probably just running and gunning if they had to write it that quick. I'm curious how much of a script they had before, because it is almost ridiculous. Like some of them, sometimes they're using tropes, sometimes they're using the cliche stuff that is just predictable. Um, and honestly, they have so much money into the cast and who's behind the scenes. I mean, they have Paul King, the Paddington director, doing over half of these. I mean, what does he do? First episode, fourth episode, um, and then I'm not sure who Diane Reed is. Okay, so they got some people from The Office, and well, let me click on her. D Reed. I don't know who that is either. But anyways, they do it. It's kind of hit or miss in my opinion. And it's interesting to see that Greg Daniels is only credited on the first two episodes and then the very final episode, I believe. Which the final episode's not as good as the middle episodes, I believe. I think there's some great stuff with John Malkovich's character. You kind of get some behind the scenes types, not behind the scenes, but you get his little song to the guy with the Jerome with the didgeridoo. There's some funny lines in there where you can tell where they really took their time on some of the lines. Um, and there's not just always screaming and craziness going on. I do think that some of the line delivery and like the Brad character, his 1 star general guy, freaking killed me every time. It was so funny. Um, so I don't want to say that this show goes without having some sort of merit. It's not exact. It's obviously not The Office. Can it be The Office eventually? Maybe give it maybe 2 seasons, maybe cut back the budget just a little bit. I mean, we have A-list actors, and everything looks shiny as sheet, like brand spanking new, basically. And I was thinking of how expensive some of these one-off episodes were. I was just like, wow, this is another level. So this is one of the most expensive first seasons of a comedy I think I've ever seen that I can remember of. I have heard they wanted to kind of compare this season or this series to Veep or Avenue 5. I've seen neither of which, unfortunately, but I am aware that Veep has done hella banger numbers in the awards, and Avenue 5 was essentially the Space Force for HBO. And so I'm gonna have to maybe just check out an episode of one of those just to kind of get something to relate to. But I've seen all the seasons of The Office, so I know what Greg Daniels and Steve Carell can actually do. Um, Maybe I guess they kind of have to decide how important is the story versus how important is the fact to how important it is to have the story like progress versus one-off episodes and have a lot of content. This feels like the kind of series that you're going to want to have loads and loads of content, but for this the new seasons of series, a lot of things aren't going past like 4 or 5 seasons. And what people tend to rely on and like back in the day are the things like uh, you got the Grey's Anatomies, the Friends, you got the Sanford and Sons, you got the I guess Breaking Bad's kind of a little bit below that, but there's the type of television shows. Think of like a House or something like that, or these shows that have literally hundreds of episodes. Breaking Bad's more like 50, but I guess I'm thinking of more like 100 plus. This feels like the type of series that needs to go for 100 plus to be considered one of the greats. But I don't think with this type of budget that Netflix is going to want to do that. And I think with the people that are involved, I mean, you would need Steve Carell for a while. I'm sure they got a blank check for this, just straight up go do whatever you want. But they can't have things like this last episode really irritated me. I don't know, it didn't irritate me. I noticed that the helicopter comes in to save his daughter, which my lord, his daughter is always getting in trouble, and the wife is lesbian, and there's the whole thing with yeah, it's a thing, and the daughter just takes it in the worst way possible. It's just, oh my gosh, it just creates more trouble for him. Um, but anyways, the supporting characters I think really come to shine. The janitors, oh my gosh, both of the janitors were knocking me down with laughter. I was really enjoying how the playing off of each of the supporting characters became, because I feel like Steve Carell was just kind of going room to room to room to room in the first episode, and now he's kind of actually sitting down and having like a conversation. What it makes it feel like is they might have actually shot the last few episodes first, maybe, and then these other episodes as filler. I don't really know, honestly. I wish that Netflix kind of would have overseen them and said that we don't need 10 episodes. But, imagine if there's 7 episodes. People are going to be like, oh my gosh, I really want more if those few episodes weren't there. Now, there might be people that like the monkey episodes and thought it was hilarious. But I just kind of felt like I was like, it made me want to turn it off. I was like, this is not progressing in a way that makes me want to tell people about the show. But once you get over that little hump, I think that it becomes an enjoyable show. You can kind of relate. You can just zone in and out. You don't have to have. You can have your phone on. You can be doing other things. It's not appointment viewing that you're like, oh, I gotta see this. But it looks amazing. What was I gonna say? Anything else in the notes? I think I got just about all of it out. So 25 minutes, not too bad. Just a quick summary of the final few episodes of the series of Space Force on Netflix. Thank you for listening to the Lucky Dog podcast. We could not do this podcast without you. Check out all the Lucky Dog podcast on SoundCloud. You can listen to everything early on YouTube, Lucky Dog podcast. If you subscribe there, you'll get the podcast there. Sometimes I add a bonus content to the podcast, and because you can't just re-upload things on YouTube, all the bonus content is on the SoundCloud stream. So that's good just to have that, locked and loaded just as well. But generally, I release all podcasts on Tuesday, give or take. Specials that come out, specials that come out. I appreciate Deepak. I see you in the comments. Episode 1. Appreciate you watching, listening to that. Thumbs up. Let me know how I can improve the podcast. If you like this review, let me know how if you like this review, then thumbs up. If you didn't like this review, then before you thumbs down or do anything else, or you like, screw this guy, let me know how I can improve. Let me know how I can improve the audio quality, or whatever else. I'll order a milkshake or something. I don't know, unless you're lactose intolerant, like that Ben Schwartz in this. But yeah, thank you for listening, watching Lucky Dog Podcast. Whatever you're doing to support, thank you. Hope everyone is staying safe in the world during these interesting times. Support local business, support your neighbor, love people, whatever else. I'm trying to wrap everything up all on a quick combination plate for you and package it to go. So, all right, thank you everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.